After months of working non-stop in the city, I finally decided to take a break. I packed up a few bags, called some close friends, and headed out to my family's cabin in the woods. This cabin wasn't just a getaway spot. It had been in my family for generations. My grandfather built it with his own hands, and my uncle, who happened to be the county sheriff, took care of it whenever we weren't around. The plan was simple: a weekend of relaxation, barbecues, hiking, and campfires with friends. No noise, no traffic, just the peace of nature. My friends were excited too. We loaded the truck with supplies, food, and a cooler that could probably feed a small army. By the time we arrived, the sun was setting behind the pines, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple. We started a fire outside, played some music at a comfortable level, and began roasting marshmallows. Laughter filled the air as stories were shared. For the first time in months, I felt my shoulders relax. But little did I know, trouble was brewing. You see, the cabin was located near a small neighborhood. Most of the neighbors were friendly, waving whenever they saw us. But one person, Karen, was different. She had a reputation for poking her nose into everyone's business. Whether it was someone's lawn not being trimmed or kids riding bikes too loudly, Karen found something to complain about. That night, as the flames flickered and the music played softly, I noticed a flashlight beam darting through the trees. At first, I thought maybe another neighbor was just checking their property. But the beam stopped at our cabin. Then a voice rang out. "Excuse me, you can't have this many people here. This is a violation of the county's noise rules." It was Karen. She marched up in her slippers, arms crossed, glaring at my friends as if we had ruined her life personally. "Karen, it's just a campfire," I tried to explain. "We're not being loud. We own this cabin. My family does." But she wasn't interested. She pulled out her phone. "That's it. I'm calling the sheriff. Let's see what the law has to say about your little party." She snapped, dialing 911. My friends looked at me nervously. "Dude, is this going to be a problem?" One whispered. I smiled faintly. "Not exactly. Let's just say the sheriff knows me." "Very well." Still, Karen stood there smugly, phone to her ear, certain she had won. What she didn't know was that her call was about to backfire in the most unexpected way. Karen stood there with her phone pressed tightly to her ear, pacing in front of our campfire like she was about to bust a drug cartel. My friends were whispering, some nervous, others trying not to laugh. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my soda, waiting for the inevitable. She ended the call with a triumphant smile, as if she just scored a personal victory. "The sheriff is on his way," she announced. "You all better start packing up. Once he gets here, this little illegal gathering is over." "Illegal?" my buddy Jake muttered. "We're literally roasting marshmallows." "What's next? Outlawing s'mores?" I shrugged, pretending to look worried, though inside I was grinning. I knew exactly who was going to show up. About 15 minutes later, headlights cut through the trees, and a county SUV rolled up the gravel path. Karen practically lit up like a Christmas tree. She waved both arms in the air dramatically, calling out, "Over here, officer! Over here!" The vehicle came to a stop. Out stepped Sheriff Daniels, my uncle. A tall man with a steady voice, he carried himself with the calm confidence of someone who had seen it all. He removed his hat, squinting at the scene. "Evening, folks," he said. Karen rushed over before he could take another step. "Sheriff, thank goodness you came. These people are trespassing, throwing a wild party, disturbing the peace. I demand you do something!" My uncle turned to me, then to my friends, then back to her. His eyebrow arched ever so slightly. "Karen," he said slowly, "are you telling me my nephew and his friends are trespassing on our family cabin?" The look on Karen's face was priceless. Her jaw dropped so hard I thought it might hit the forest floor. "Nephew?" she stammered. "That's right," my uncle said, his voice calm but firm. "This cabin belongs to my family, and last I checked, they have every right to be here." Karen's face flushed red. She looked from me to my uncle, struggling to find her footing. But, they're—" Karen's face twisted into a mix of anger and disbelief. She was the type of person who couldn't stand being wrong. And the fact that the sheriff himself had just sided with us was like pouring gasoline on her frustration. "This is unbelievable," she screeched, throwing her hands in the air. "So just because they're family, they get to break the rules? What about the neighborhood code? What about my peace and quiet?" My uncle raised an eyebrow, his tone steady but laced with a warning. "Karen, there's no neighborhood code that says families can't enjoy their own property. And unless you've got a decibel meter hidden in your pocket, I don't see any proof of a disturbance." Karen's lips quivered. I know what I heard." They had music, laughing, cars pulling up. I cut in, unable to resist. "Sorry for the sound of joy, Karen. Next time we'll keep the laughter muted." My friends chuckled again, and that sent Karen over the edge. She stomped her foot on the gravel, pointing at us like a courtroom prosecutor. "Sheriff, I want them fined. I want them written up. Do your job." My uncle sighed, removing his hat and rubbing his forehead. "Karen, my job is to enforce the law, not cater to your personal annoyances. And right now, you're the only one disturbing the peace." The smirk that crept onto my friend Jake's face was priceless. He whispered, "She's about to explode." Sure enough, Karen's voice went up another octave. "Oh, so now I'm the criminal? For wanting rules followed? This is harassment! I'm being harassed in my own neighborhood." My uncle's tone hardened. "Careful, Karen. Filing false reports and wasting law enforcement's time is against the law. You called me out here on a claim that doesn't exist." Karen blinked rapidly, her confidence wobbling. She looked around, maybe hoping another neighbor would magically appear to back her up. But the woods were silent, except for the crackle of our campfire. Then, as if to make her situation worse, one of my friends opened the cooler and cracked open a soda. The psst echoed just enough to make Karen's face twitch. "That's it," she snapped. "If you won't handle this, Sheriff, I'll call the county board myself. I'll have this entire cabin shut down, family or not." My uncle tilted his head slowly, his eyes narrowing. "Karen, I suggest you think very carefully about what you're threatening. Because if you want the county involved—" He paused, letting the words hang in the air like thunder before a storm. "You might not like what they find on your property." Karen froze, suddenly pale, her bravado flickering like a candle in the wind. The firelight flickered against Karen's face, and for the first time that evening she looked uncertain. Her arms, once crossed in defiance, now hung awkwardly at her sides. "What? What do you mean by that?" she asked, her voice wobbling. My uncle took his time, adjusting his hat before sliding it back on. "Karen, let's not play games. I've had more than a few complaints about your property. Illegal trash burning, noise from your dogs barking all night, and let's not forget that unpermitted shed you built right up against the fence line." Karen's eyes widened. That's none of your business. That shed is temporary." "Temporary?" my uncle repeated, unimpressed. "Funny, because I've seen the satellite records. It's been there over a year. You know as well as I do, the county doesn't take kindly to rule breakers, especially when they're busy reporting everyone else." My friends shifted in their chairs, whispering with barely contained laughter. Jake leaned toward me and muttered, "She's getting roasted harder than these marshmallows." Karen's face flushed a deep shade of crimson. She turned to me desperately, her voice pitching higher. "This is a setup! You're all ganging up on me. You think because you have family in the sheriff's office you can bully me?" I stood, brushing the ash off my jeans. "Karen, nobody's bullying you. We just came out here to relax. You're the one who marched into our camp and called 911 over laughter. And honestly, you've made yourself look ridiculous." My uncle stepped forward, his boots crunching on the gravel. His voice was low, but it carried weight. "Karen, I'm going to give you a choice. You can go home, enjoy your evening, and stop harassing my nephew and the rest of your neighbors. Or, if you'd prefer, I can start filing official reports on the violations we already know about on your property." The silence that followed was so thick you could almost taste it. Even the crickets seemed to pause. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish, but no sound came out. Finally she huffed, spun on her heel, and stomped back toward her house, muttering, This isn't over. This isn't over. We all burst out laughing the second she disappeared into the shadows of the trees. The tension broke, replaced by the kind of joy that only comes from watching justice being served right in front of you. My uncle shook his head, chuckling. That woman's been a thorn in this county's side for years. But she'll think twice before wasting our time again. I clapped him on the back. Thanks for showing up, Uncle. Not that I doubted you'd have our backs. He gave me a grin. Family first, always. As he headed back to his SUV, I sat down by the fire again, my friends raising their sodas in a mock toast. To Sheriff Uncle! Jake shouted. And just like that, the cabin weekend was back on track. Our laughter now louder than ever, echoing through the woods without fear of another unwanted interruption. Enjoying this wild Karen cabin story? Hit that subscribe button for more unbelievable HOA and neighbor showdowns. If this made you laugh or shake your head, drop a like and let me know in the comments. What would you have done if Karen showed up at your campfire?